What's up, everyone? I'm Anthony. With me is Destin.
Hi.
And a person that should need no introduction if you're catching us for our DayZ live stream. This is Dean Hall, the creator of the mod and the future standalone game, DayZ. So it's nice to have you, Dean. I'm really glad that you could join us. We are playing in the world, trying desperately to survive, and probably being really terrible at it. I mean, let's be honest. Like Dustin and I recognize that we're not necessarily the most savvy DayZ players, but it's kind of been a crazy year for you with DayZ. I mean, the mod came out in April, and I mean, so much has happened since then. I mean, there's talks of standalones, and what kind of, I guess, future does this if you do want to do standalone, what is the future for the Arma 2 mod of DayZ?
I think the really important thing with the mod is to continue, I guess, with the creative aspect of it. So that's one of the cool things of the mod, is that people are able to do all this creative stuff, and like we were talking before about the people who did the Hunger Games and stuff like that. So we really want to foster that. We want to open the mod up a lot more than it currently is now, so that people can run private servers and things like that. And that allows a lot more experimentation to go on while we're doing the standalone.
And so just remember, if you want to actually send questions to us or Dean, it's you're going to tweet at IGN with the hashtag DayZ. So I guess one of the most interesting things is, in January, February, March of this year, like, no one was talking about DayZ because it didn't even exist.
Yeah.
You post the link in April, and since then for Bohemia and for you, it's kind of blown up huge. So how did you, I guess, get the inspiration for DayZ? I think that's kind of an interesting story that I don't think a lot of people really know yet.
Yeah, well, I guess I've always been really interested in gaming and modding and stuff like that. So I've always liked to get under the hood. I was really influenced strongly by the book The Road, and the movie obviously as well. We were talking about it before, but I really liked an old game, Alien vs Predator, the original one. And I loved playing it in cooperative mode, where you were just fighting like waves and waves of aliens, with other players. I was in the military for a while and did a survival training course, and I became really interested in people's emotional reactions to situations, and that was something I wanted to explore in a video game, like the tensions that people face when you have this permanent character that you know is going to be around, but look, he found some wire. It's awesome. But yeah, it's exploring those tensions is I think it's something I really wanted to do.
When you've been developing DayZ, have you found that, for a lot of it, I imagine, it has been an experiment for you going forward, like even that wire we see there, that's you implemented this system where people could build and stretch wire out, but it's hard to know exactly what players are going to do with that, right? Where they're like blocking off whole areas that you can no longer get to. Has there been anything in DayZ that you've kind of tried with the mod and felt, I guess maybe it didn't work as the way you intended?
Yeah, well, I guess the classic one was the banditry for a start. So humanity is sort of a long-term thing to try and find the right balance. Like we don't want to force people into a particular play style, but we want people's avatar, their character, to reflect their chosen play style, and so that there is some impact to their actions. So I guess that's the big one. That's the big one that we still haven't got kind of working properly, and that we want to get working.
Yeah, originally the system worked. It was like if you killed enough people, you got skinned as a bandit, right? But I remember a friend of mine that played the game early on told me the problem with that was he ended up getting skinned as a bandit at one point after killing people that tried to shoot him first. It's hard to tell the game to recognize self-defense versus, So I guess what's kind of been what's been kind of the hardest part about building a game from within, a pre-existing game, like making a mod rather than, I guess what advantages do you feel that there will be making DayZ a standalone game?
I think the biggest advantage really comes from being able to directly fix a lot of the problems that it faces. One of the reasons, a lot of people knock the Arma engine, but it's really versatile in being able to rapidly prototype something. So, you can put together something like DayZ. It's kind of amazing that you can do this inside a game like that. By going standalone, we're able to deal with a lot of the bugs, the classic one being the amount of hacking that's going on. So we can lock down the way it works a lot better and have it check its data more and deal with most of the problems with hacking there.
Well, when you guys do standalone too, and you're having people play on servers that you guys are running, I imagine that'll allow you to do interesting things like check their metrics too, and kind of adjust the gameplay based on what you see as like player trends, or if people aren't finding guns, you can change the weapon placement of guns. There are certain advantages to being able to track the information like that maybe having it as a mod doesn't necessarily afford you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, visual things. So there's a lot that happens in the game with lighting and sounds and things like that work very well for for armor, for what it's trying to do as a military simulator. But in order to be the best for what DayZ needs to be, then we really need to end up with focusing on that a lot more. Like, I think those subtle audio and visual clues are really important.
Oh, sorry, I got distracted because Destin just found himself.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited about this.
He's now at least going to be armed.
Reload time.
I actually wish the reload was like,
and prepping the axe.
God.
I mean, it's like, how did you? Obviously, with DayZ, the community plays a lot into like the game's development.
Dust.
Like for instance, there weren't axe weapons at one point, and you used to start with a gun. Like, how do you, as someone who's become a designer now, like, how do you balance like taking player feedback, but also making sure that you're making the game that you want to play? Because I know, like, for some people, I know that it was kind of an unpopular decision to like take guns away from starting.
Probably an understatement, yeah.
Well, okay, people freaked out a little bit,
they
yeah. But it's like, that's like obviously like a challenge, right? You want to make the game that you want to make, but you also want to cater to these people that have been with you for the whole process of the making the game.
I guess the most important thing is being honest about the results of that. Wow.
Okay.
I think you got killed.
You think I got sniped?
I think you did.
I think you did.
Oh.
Just like that, you can die that easy.
Actually, I think you got hacked.
Oh.
I see everyone was killed. So.
Yeah. Oh, darn it.
What was the question again?
Oh, just talking about. Sorry, we got distracted. I know.
We did.
It's talking about balancing community feedback versus the idea that you have for the game. Where you want it to go.
I think the important thing is to be really realistic. You have to go disconnect then.
Oh yeah.
Back in. Is to be really realistic about the results of what happened. So let's take, for example, removing the player's starting weapon. We say, okay, we're going to try this. It's an experiment. Say the reasons we're trying it. And then after a few weeks, we review it and say, was it a good decision? Was it a bad decision? Because there's been a lot of things that were implemented that were bad decisions that that we look back and we say, okay, those were bad decisions. A couple of examples would be when we were releasing patches way too quickly. Like, needing to slow down is really important.
Why is that?
Well, at one point we were just releasing patch after patch. They weren't properly tested. People were getting really frustrated because it was killing their characters. And it's one of those things, we were really wanting to fix a lot of the bugs and push out new features, but they weren't being tested thoroughly. And so I think that the important thing going forward when we're making these decisions and doing these experiments is to just be really honest about the results of those, whether they were good or bad decisions, and then not make those same decisions again if they were bad decisions. Yeah.
Oh, the voice chat over the game. People don't
Someone's
keep
a little
it clean.
unhappy. I think I'm going to switch servers.
Yeah, let's switch servers. So one of our Twitter people who hit us up at IGN with the hashtag DayZ, his name's Tom Tweedy 86. He says, with the upcoming release of the War Z, do you feel you need to add something different with the game? Like, I guess probably he means like with the standalone. Like, I guess I'll add to that. Do you feel like you need to do like what does DayZ do really well that you want to make sure it continues to do well to make sure that it, this is where DayZ stands out as a in the market?
Yeah, well, I think that's a good point, and that's a really good question. Like, the important thing is that we focus on why DayZ is good and why it is popular, and not get grand ideas about doing everything. Like, we need to stay true to what DayZ is really fostering, which is this player creation and player creativity. And it's not about killing zombies. It's really about all those player interactions, and the zombies are the setting, and we all like, zombies as a setting. So I think that really the answer there is that we just need to be true to what what makes DayZ good. And that means focusing on all those chances for players to create their own world and interact. And simple things like I think adding group play mechanics in, but having them in such a way they don't destroy respawning and stuff like that, and supporting people creating their own in-game videos and content and stuff like that. So I think we just have to stay true to what DayZ is, and if we do that, I think we'll be okay.
Can I ask you a question? How do you feel about the War Z coming out so close to the DayZ name?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people say, oh, they stole your idea or whatever.
Or jets taking off.
Yeah. The computer we're playing on is quite loud sometimes.
I think, you can't. I don't think you can steal an idea. So it would be pretty arrogant for me to go around and say, oh, they stole my idea or whatever, because I just don't think that's the case. But I'm not exactly going to, I think I put in one article, I'm not exactly going to invite them over for a cup of tea. They're not on my Christmas card list or anything. But I also think that a bit of competition doesn't hurt anyone, and I think that that we don't really know much at the moment, so I think we kind of need to wait and see. Okay. I think the really important thing though is that people vote with their wallets on what games are good. This doesn't just apply to the zombie genre. I think people should buy games because they're good, and not buy a game and then complain about it. That's because publishers and developers, you've bought their game, so it's not really going to have an impact. So I think people get really obsessed with hype and pre-orders and stuff like that, and I think the best thing is actually to assess the game based on its merits.
Tom Tweedy 86, we liked your question. So I just want to, we got these cool postcards made, kind of custom for us, and
those were actually made by Christine, our new social member.
Yeah,
and the images are from Tech User, a Reddit user, who did all these screenshots from DayZ, and he's a big fan of the game. And he said he gave us permission to use them.
We had Dean sign him. He signed him as Rocket, his pseudonym that I feel like you're better known as on the internet. So.
True. Even my mom calls me Rocket now.
Does she really?
Yeah, she does.
So we're going to be giving away 8 of those. Tom, you got yourself one of those. If you want to have a chance to get one of those, or if you just want to have your question potentially answered, it's at IGN, the hashtag DayZ. Like Mr. Fister Raptor. he says, will you be adding new types of vehicles in the standalone version?
Oh, that's actually another good question as well. I think vehicles are really key. I kind of, so the vehicles being a really large, almost end-game type content, but we really want to expand that a lot more. So I think rather than adding more vehicles to the game, I'd really like it if people could customize the vehicles. So one design concept we've been putting together is that you would find a wreck, and then you can use different parts in that wreck. It kind of goes back to that last question as well. I think, the more control we can see from the development team to the players, the better, because people do this really crazy, awesome, creative stuff. So
yeah, I would love to see a guy that's rolling around in a Road Warrior type car or something like that, like a Mad Max car that you're just like, oh wow, this guy looks evil. He looks like a dude that's been surviving in the zombie apocalypse for a long time.
There's a lot you can do in the Armor engine with attaching objects, so there's a lot of capability there.
What if people start skinning their vehicles? Like a sweet paint job?
Yeah. A Hello Kitty paint job. Well, I think I think we need to open that up a bit more, because there's a lot of wrecks around the world, so we need to kind of have it that if you find enough parts, you can kind of do up a wreck, and that's certainly the end that I'd like to see from it.
Time to go, Dustin.
Running.
And also, I know that we had talked, you've talked a little bit before as far as the standalone games, and that you've wanted to do a lot more with the way that damage kind of works in the game right now. There's a few states you get hit, you bleed, you get hit, you can get a limb broken. I'm curious if you could maybe talk a little bit more about some of the stuff you see as the future of kind of what it's like to get injured in a DayZ world.
Yeah, I really want to see the complexity grow, but when growing that complexity, we need to make it intuitive. So it's it's kind of, in some ways, it's easy to learn the basic concepts of DayZ because they mirror kind of, what you'd expect in real life. So, for example, you know that you need to eat and you need to drink because you need to do so in real life. And so I think that, that applying that to the medical system is what we want to do. So at the moment, you break your leg, you pop some morphine and you can carry on. you know, I'm experimenting with building a splint and things like that into game. You know, suturing.
Oh man, first-person suturing would be the worst.
Yeah,
it'd be brutal to watch. You have to stitch yourself, you know.
Yeah, but so expanding those things again, it allows more aspects of group play as well. So we want to expand some of the social aspects. So you can pretty much like repair yourself if you have a problem, but for many things like with the blood bags, it's easier to do it if you've got a group. So I think you know that's really the underlying basis of what we want to do with our medical system.
Is it also though that in a lot of ways you want to kind of maintain the feel of it, like in the sense that in the standalone, like your health will still be based around like something like blood, you know, and you'll still get like, is that kind of how you envision it still?
Yeah, well actually there was a really good suggestion of a guy, and I can't remember his name, this is really bad, but on the forums and also on the Reddit suggestion thread, who talked about this concept of having health and as separate to blood. So I took on board, there was some really good feedback and discussion in that thread to really make things make a bit more sense. And so what I've been working on is this more in-depth matrix of a balance between sort of your energy levels versus your blood, and then affecting an overall level of health, so that all these things kind of interrelate and go together. Same with expanding the different types of illnesses that you can have, you know, cholera and things like that. So that, and a lot of them are actually quite reasonable to do with only reasonably minimal changes in what we've got. That was quite a throw.
So another Twitter question from someone named Daniel Bowlig. He says, why do you, Dean, believe that the above-ground construction experiments with fence wire, sandbags, and tents didn't work?
Well, I think it worked in the sense that the server didn't explode, and that was kind of the main test, was to see that the server could handle players freely being able to go around and create stuff, and at least for the most part, you know, the servers didn't explode. I think that above ground construction is something we do want to still allow, but I think that it does need to have more parameters than we could do, say, below ground or something, or different aspects. It's something that we're going to have to experiment with a lot more before we come up with the final solution. The one thing we do know is that we really want to have players to be able to change the world as much as possible.
I mean, also, I know that, you know, at Gamescom and stuff this year in Germany, you've been talking a bit about doing stuff with underground construction as well, like almost like some sort of instance system where players can build like their own little like survival hive, basically. But I don't think that that's necessarily something a lot of people know about. I don't know, like how do you envision that working?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the first caveat is it's still at the design stages, so there's a lot of programming stuff that needs to be sorted out with it, and it's probably not something we target for the standalone release. But
well, not initial release.
Yeah, not
right?
initial. That's right.
I mean, that's the whole thing about the standalone that maybe people don't necessarily realize is that the plan for it right now is to release it and kind of do what you know the Mojang team has done with Minecraft, which is, you know, you'll release a standalone, it'll be an alpha state, people play it, changes, you buy it once, changes come over time, you get the changes for free. And that kind of thing's really cool. I mean, I think that it helps people feel like they get to be a part of the development, right? I think a lot of people that are playing this right now, that's kind of why they've latched on, is like I think, you know, at lunch when you and I were talking outside of this, that part of it for you that feels like it's always been important to DayZ is your interaction with the community and being so vocal with them. You know, I think that it has made people more interested in your game, the fact that they feel like if they talk on something like Reddit or a message board, you might actually read it and be like, you know, that's a good point. And that's something that I feel like we don't see in a lot of game development that kind of makes DayZ unique. Yeah,
well, like we were talking about the health system, you know, that came out of the suggestions. Same with the construction that we were talking about. So there were a lot of good feedback and a lot of good points come out of the suggestion thread on the forums as well as on Reddit. Because there was one guy who came up with a very concise list of his suggestions and other people talked about it. So there's been a lot of really good stuff come out there. Look, I think the player construction could be to DayZ what capital ships are to Eve. You know, real end game stuff, digging out underground, and then turning it into a hideout.
Something that a lot of people could aspire to if they can get that far.
Yeah.
I mean, even like you said, cars in this game are a little bit like in-game content. Like it's hard to find all the parts and get a car running. Like when I see a player with a car, I'm like, man, that guy
Yeah,
He is,
and I
he's
think
doing well.
what we don't want to do is design challenges. We want to create the problems and then let the players figure out how to solve them. So an example being, someone said to me, well, you know, with these underground structures, how are you going to stop players from taking them over? So let's say me and my friends dig out this massive cavern and we start building our base. What's to stop someone else coming in and taking it over? And I think the cool thing is that, you know, my answer was, well, nothing. You know, you've got to come up with that. You know,
Right.
we're not going to create we're just going to create these problems and then say, well, we don't know, you know, what the solution is. So you guys need to come up with some way of defending that. I think that's pretty cool. Like maybe we could see these development of these massive player-regulated cities that, you know.
Right, where they're like, well, if you want to live here and keep your stuff safe, everyone has to do a watch or something at some
exactly,
point.
and see them get organized. Look, I don't know how it'll work, but what really interests me is creating these. They're not real dilemmas, but they have some authenticity to them. So these are problems that communities would face, obviously, after some kind of massive event like this. So let's present them to the players, and it becomes a really interesting, organic gameplay.
I feel like a lot of the things, though, with DayZ aren't necessarily things that, like, I could be wrong, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of it isn't necessarily stuff that you planned for, like these interactions and stuff. You had no idea that people were going to go around kidnapping people and throwing them into a van or stuff like that. You just kind of put these out there, and then people kind of do with it what they will, and that's kind of the exciting part, I imagine, for you as, like,
Oh my God!
a
What?
designer that, you know, these things, we just run into another player.
Yeah, and he just attracted like 1 million zombies.
He's probably thinking, save me, save me.
It's just like that was it Penny Arcade or Control Delete?
What are you doing?
Just get out of here, Dustin.
But yeah, you know, so definitely the player-created content is just amazing what people do with it. The guys doing the vault.
Vault?
Daniel Bollig, you asked about the above-ground construction, and your question led us to a good discussion. So you're going to get another one of our cool postcards signed by Dean.
You need to aim up a little bit.
Oh.
No, you
I
got
got
it.
I'm amazed I'm still alive.
So another question that came in via our Twitter from someone named Thompson BA says, have you thought about adding infected animals to forests to make the woods more dangerous? I think maybe he's just talking in general about how the woods feel generally a lot more safe. The zombies kind of congregate to town. Is there, you know, I know that that's intentional because it's like supplies are where they are, and this guy's trying to kill you. There's zombies around, and he's trying to kill you.
Yeah, look, I think the survival aspects of the game is something that really I want to expand a lot. And so that means expanding how the animals factor into it, and that's why the experiment with dogs is one of the things that we want to look at.
Anthony said today that he's never encountered anybody who kills him.
Yeah, no, that was a hacker again. You can see by all the people.
Yeah.
Well, so that's actually a good point. So I mean, that's one of the things that the standalone can offer you a chance to kind of address, right? Is the issue with hacking, and like I guess some people don't understand like why you can't address the issue of hacking in a mod environment. If you could speak to that, I guess.
Yeah, well, Arma 2 is a very trusting game, and it was designed for, originally, if you look back to Flashpoint, like a few people to join in together and, you know, and play it, you know, with people that you know and that you trust. Like, that's what it was designed for.
Right, you played with people that you wanted to operate in a very specific squad environment with.
And in fact, when it was first created, there was no join in progress, so you couldn't, like, you know, you just started playing, and that was how it was. And so that's where it grew out of. It never had a need to police itself or
I guess I didn't die.
Oh wow, and yeah, you're in pain.
Yeah, you're not doing so well. I mean, your blood is nice, but yeah, you're...
I'm good. Got some painkillers.
Some of the servers have a tool now to stop, if it detects everyone gets killed at once, it doesn't save it.
It just like goes, it backs.
A community-made tool, actually. But yeah, so like, I think, and I've completely forgotten what we were talking about.
It's okay. We got distracted by the... Well, we were talking about hacking and stuff like that.
Hacking,
and addressing it with the standalone.
Hello.
Yeah, look, it's something we do really want to fix, obviously, really quickly. But again, it's not the kind of thing, you know, we don't want to rush into it. We could spend a lot of time on the mod and not fix it at all, or we could spend a little bit of time and fix it in the standalone. And it's just one of those unfortunate situations. Oh, I know where you are. This is where I do all my testing, actually, at this spot.
This is where I get slaughtered.
Another Twitter user who hit us up at IGN with the hashtag DayZ, his name is James Crow 5. He says, will there be
military stuff inside that room?
says, will there be a trading system in the future of DayZ?
We want to provide the mechanics to allow people to do what they need to in game, but we don't want to regulate it too much. Like, I guess I'm a little bit reticent to add in some kind of UI mechanic, because I think back to a situation when I was at the relief station near the Southern Airfield, you know, the medical station there, and I was there with one of the other guys from the DayZ team who was helping me test, and we run into this other guy and we agreed to make a trade with him, and we were trading with him. And then this other dude run in. We thought he was with the other guy. The other guy thought he was with us. This other dude come in and like literally right in front of us stole the stuff we put on the ground trading and ran off. So,
hey dude, what's up? Hey, where's our stuff?
yeah, you know, it was like it was kind of awesome. So I think we probably want to improve some aspects of it, but I think regulating it too much could be bad.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's much more interesting of an idea, imagining a situation where you meet up with someone, you're like, all right, you drop your stuff on the ground. You drop your stuff on the ground, and there's like that, rather than like something where we just go to a UI and we drag drop stuff on each other and move on with our lives.
I would like to see how we can integrate other media into DayZ in the future. So we've talked a bit about how the website, the DayZ website, could become more integrated into the game in future. So maybe cities that have power and things like that, and people that have laptops, maybe there could be some kind of network like shop, you know, trading, stuff like that, for again end game type content for really resource cities. But rather than us implement it, we'd prefer to provide tools and the ability for you know, player cities or structures and that to make use
Is there
of that.
somewhere you wanted me to go in particular?
No, I think
You said a military building. I got excited.
oh, that little shed beside you.
Oh, okay.
It sometimes has military stuff in
Yeah.
it. Even in the future
damn it.
standalone for
Get up,
DayZ,
get up,
do you kind of envision, like, so food, you know, obviously right now food, heat, drink, all these things, you know, matter to you, thirst. Those are all things that you want to include in the standalone as well. But not necessarily, like, I guess it sounds like maybe you want, like, right now the interface is very clearly ARMA too.
Yeah.
And so what you're doing when you go to the standalone is you can make it all obviously read DayZ, like there will be signs that it's DayZ. Like, I guess, can you speak about kind of maybe some of the plans you have for the interface to make it feel more like less military sim and more like this is what it, like, you know, it suits the DayZ style more?
Yeah, well, I think the simple answer to that is less interface. So, you know, I really want to see a lot less interface. So, for example, no ammunition counter. You know, as a soldier, you can't easily tell when, you know, how much ammo you've got to have in. And in fact, it's one of the dilemmas is how many rounds did I fire? You've got to try and remember and stuff like that. So, I think, yeah, we want to go for sort of a less is more thing. The more cues we can have as visual or audio cues, the better. So if you're hungry, you know, maybe your tummy grumbles, maybe there's different animations that your players does.
So you want to get rid of the interface as much as possible?
As much as possible. I think that the ultimate aim would be to have no like hard elements at all.
Tell how hurt you are by the way you move or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. We were looking at doing injured animation tree so that your player plays a special animation when you're injured but like semi-healed, so that, you know, again, that comes into the social, maybe you need to have a splint or get your leg seen to before you get fully healed. It
is exciting to think about, like, if you and I encountered each other in the world, that, like right now, if we encounter this player we're encountering, this player we encountered, it'd be interesting to think that if you had this, you know, this treat injury system, sorry, if you had this treat injury system,
He found our server.
He found our live stream.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think that.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna get murdered too.
It'd be interesting.
Just break his legs.
Yeah. If you're watching the stream, it's time. Sorry.
I like how you're like break his legs.
His legs are broken.
Yeah. You're right. I'll bandage him. Come here. I'll bandage you. No. Bandage wounds.
Well, that was that. He's gonna bandage himself. Let him use his own.
All right, good. Have fun with those legs, buddy.
But God, I got totally distracted.
It was well worth the distraction.
Well, the injury mechanic, you know, it's like I like that idea that we could run into this player that we just ran into and immediately tell his health. Like if he's leaning towards or if he looks like has a pale complexion. In real life, you can tell how someone's doing just by looking at him. So.
Well, that is an area that I've been looking at a lot, mainly in relating to humanity. So we want to have subtle indicators of humanity, maybe like a scowling face or a scarred face. And this kind of stuff is stuff we're going to have to experiment with a lot more to see what works or what feels kind of makes sense in the game world. But I think we'll find the recipe if we experiment enough with it.
I love how you're like, just break his leg.
Yeah.
You know, don't kill him.
Oh yeah, we'll just leave him out there.
Yeah.
Well, it's the cruelest thing to do because you can't respawn. So
Yeah.
So at Turtle Toaster 1, oh yeah, that's an interesting thing that you can't just respawn anymore. You used to be able to just kill yourself on a whim. So.
Oh, you can't. Oh,
yeah.
That's so awesome.
So,
we just did that to him.
At Turtle Toaster 1, who hit us up at IGN with the hashtag DayZ, says, "Are you planning on making more buildings accessible?"
Yes. In fact, that's the one thing I can promise for the standalone. So that's actually already been done. A bunch of very talented guys at BIS led by this guy Ivan Budka, who a lot of people will know is, and I always pronounce his name wrong, but will know that he's a creative director on Arma 3. So he's actually one of the key architects behind how Chernarus looks. And so he actually, BIR got him with a team to go back and redo Chernarus, tidy up a lot of the bugs.
Yep. Should we break his legs?
He's saying something about like
He's saying the live stream. Break his leg.
Yeah, okay. He didn't sound very happy.
no.
Sorry, dude.
It was nothing personal. It was just we can't have you stealing the limelight.
We bleeped that, right?
Well,
Yeah, we got that.
Turtle Toaster 1, you just had your question answered on the stream, and it was
Did
awesome.
I actually answer that? I worried.
Yeah, you said
okay.
the one thing you promised is that
Yes,
we're going to
we
make
can.
buildings much more accessible.
I don't know whether we're going to get all the buildings enterable because the ones we're doing, we're adding a lot more detail. Things like, you know, a real priority was things like the hospital and that.
Yeah.
Scenes I really liked in the
If you want to
Walking Dead.
join our server and get your legs broken, that's where we're at.
US 715.
About 30 seconds before the hackers arrive.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you just got yourself a postcard signed by Dean. Oh man, I can't believe 2 people have found this. I'm actually more impressed that people found us, if nothing else, other than I don't know how they figured out which server we were on. So, and where we were so fast. People understand the geography of this game way too well.
Yeah.
They like saw a bush and were like, oh, I know that bush by that river.
And then they're able to run there. Like.
What's the coolest thing you've seen community-wise arise from this mod, in your opinion?
I think the DayZ in real life stuff that's done, I really liked
What?
it.
Oh my
What
God!
the hell?
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
He doesn't know what he's doing.
No, but they have a helicopter.
I think his tail rotor's out. Yeah, his tail rotor.
That was awesome.
Allah Akbar.
Oh my god.
You see how it goes right in the chat there. See, you know, like every time I try and get mad about the hacking,
Something like that happens.
I don't think that guy necessarily hacked it, but you know, every time something bad happens, we're talking at lunch about that one hacker who was like being a ghost and going around.
It just creates these dynamic game events that are so awesome. So I guess while we load into a new character, you know, if you want to hit us up again, it's at IGN, the hashtag DayZ. Just like Diogo and Tunis98 says, he says, hey, can you give some of the viewers here more details on dogs being implemented?
Dogs. So I've taken a bit of time because we got a lot of feedback from Gamescom in Germany on the dogs because it was playable there. So we really want to introduce them to games, so to see how the player, like, you know, how player companions can work for people.
Yeah.
Particularly there's people who really like having a, like, you know, a dog companion, like playing alone, like as a lone wolf. And actually it was pretty cool. I don't know, we'll run it up at some stage and let you have a look. But it's really like, almost like I Am Legend, you know, you're running around with this Alsatian.
Sure, I mean, it feels nice to not necessarily be totally alone, right? Like there's like that sense but not necessarily like a player, because there's always that trust issue with a player. You know,
and so I think it's one aspect of we can experiment with it, see how it goes. So the things you can do at the moment, you can use your dog for tracking. So you can get him to track animals, you can get him to track people, you can get him to warn you. He'll start growling if there's zombies nearby, if he detects people, so players nearby. And you can adjust his speed if you want him to run, if you want him to walk, and all that kind of stuff. So I think that, yeah, you know, it's going to be an initial implementation. It was a little bit delayed, 1.73, but I think it's going to be worth it, because at the moment, the dogs won't attack. So, and the zombies won't attack the dog. So that's really what I'm looking at there.
Kind of expanding that so that it feels a little bit more...
Yeah. And also, I guess another big aspect is that the dogs have a memory. So they remember the people that are around you and they get comfortable with them. So if you're playing with a regular group, the dogs are comfortable with those. But if they meet new players, then they will tend to get more aggressive. So again, it's the kind of thing where rather than having you level the dog and choose what traits and things that it will kind of level itself. So the longer the dog is around, the more, the better it will get and the more loyal it will get to you. And also the way you play at it will affect what type of dog it becomes.
I was going to say, do you also have to worry about, like, is the dog another mouth to feed or anything like that?
Yeah, a lot. And the more the dog runs and things like that, the more food and water it needs.
Yeah,
so it's
So
definitely
the dog can die.
Yeah, the dog can die
see,
very easily.
Yeah, see, that's kind of a...
Emotional attachment.
Yeah, exactly, going to
Yeah.
present interesting player things if you're like, this survivor's been around for like 28 days and I've had this dog for like 20 of those days, you know, and it's like, you lose your dog. Like, or if someone like killed your dog, like another player killed your dog, like that could be like really dramatic, you know.
Yeah, and I guess we want to have a lot more of these emotional contexts. They're risky to put into a game, but I think they're a really interesting thing to explore, and I don't think we should be frightened of exploring those. Like this diary system that's been suggested a number of times is something we really want. We're looking very hard at for the standalone.
Oh, you mean like where someone could actually leave behind a log or something like that?
Yeah, so they can leave a log, and also that there'll be actually an auto-generated log that we're looking at possibly having with your body.
I get that. I mean, I love it when I find someone, and right now it's not really implemented, but you can still click on them and be like, so-and-so, who looks like they died of blank.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you could find out their story, that'd be really interesting.
And so one of the easiest things that was suggested on the forum suggestion thread that this guy made, and full credit to him, like he did a really good job with it, and so did all the people who replied to the Reddit thread, but was player notes. So being able to leave notes in the world, or being able to leave notes like on your body and stuff like that.
That's weird.
I think someone just hacked himself in a weapon. So.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. If they crash another helicopter into me, I'm good. That was awesome.
Diego Antunes98 for asking about the dogs, which is something I wanted to know more about too. You got yourself a postcard signed by Dean. So it's a custom-made postcard. With who was the art done by? The screenshots?
Tech user. He asked to be credited as tech user.
Yeah,
he was a Reddit user who took all these amazing DayZ screenshots.
I mean, amazing. Like the angles he got.
Photojournalist.
Yeah, seriously, is what it looks like.
He's a professional photographer, and he takes photos all the time in games. He has a Skyrim set and stuff too. But I'm a big fan of DayZ, obviously. So
yeah, he takes shots of the games that could easily be like the type of things you sent out.
Yeah.
To publishers or anything
well,
like
actually,
that. They're glory shots,
like
they're gorgeous.
We don't have a media kit or anything like that. We were going to Gamescom. A lot of people asked for a lot of media. So actually we ended up going out to the community and saying, please help.
Send us some of your awesome
help
screenshots.
us. And I can't remember the names of the people, but one guy did a really good work on some videos for us. And I really hope that's going to continue. Like, we get a lot of support from people. You know, we're in real crunch mode. We don't have much time before standalone. So a lot of people come forward and say, hey, you know, we can help out with this and that, so it's been really good.
So if you want to hit us up, it's at IGN with the hashtag DayZ, just like Warcrime1331 did. He says, is weapon customization something that could be possible in the future?
Wow, we're getting a lot of good questions here. So we were talking before about some of the subtle changes we're looking at making. So I guess, you know, I don't want to get super technical like I did before, but yes, like weapon customization is something that's in Arma 3, so it's something that's been designed, developed, and programmed before by Bohemia. But I think we want to make sure that the weapon customization we have for DayZ is relevant. So I think weapon customization for me ties in a lot with weapon durability as well. And
Oh, so is that something you guys are thinking about exploring too, weapon durability?
yeah, I'm really interested in it. Like, I guess I'm not so much into weapons breaking, like, because weapons don't often break unless it's like a machine gun or that. But definitely, like, I found this when I was a soldier. Like, your weapon, if it gets dirty, depending on what kind of weapon it is, you know, often
it can jam.
It can jam a lot more. So, and you get weapons that are in better condition than others. And so I think that is something that I really want to see happen there. That your there's a lot more variability in the quality of the weapons you find. So you might go, oh, it's just a Lee Enfield, but then you go, oh wow, that's a Lee Enfield in a very good condition.
Yeah, well cared for.
Yeah, well cared for. It's going to be a lot more accurate and that kind of stuff. So I think that's something I really want to see developed. Customization, definitely. Like, I think being able to, we've done a little bit of design work on it, but you know, being able to have weapon customization that makes sense. You know, not crafting a scope out of tin cans or something like that. but you know, I think it is something we want to explore.
That was a really good question. Warcrime 1331. You get a postcard signed by Dean, which is good for framing. You can put it on your desk or remember this day, always. Is it weird to you that people like things like your signature at all? You know, going from the fact that this game came out in April and...
You know, I think you need to keep it in perspective. I don't really like people saying that they're fans or that, because I think really they're more participants.
Now what's going to happen?
Flee, just flee.
Yeah, I think running is a good thing. This forest is really beautiful here as well.
Actually, I was going to say, you know, for being a game that's a few years old, there are times that, you know, certain things in DayZ I know that you're not pleased with. You're like, I wish we could do different animations and stuff. There are times that you're just like standing out over a vista and it's like gorgeous. Right?
Yeah, like I think Chernarus was a landmark for Bohemia. In terms of its, what it is. And it's great to see it's actually getting the credit that it's due now. Thanks to this. So.
I mean, so for people that don't know, is the world of Cherno, you know, is it something that existed previously in Arma, or was this created for this?
Yeah, it did. So it was actually the original map that Arma was released with, but a lot of people's computers couldn't run it at the time. And I guess Arma being a niche game, you know, it just didn't get the same level of interest that it did at the time. And also Arma is very focused on. Arma is focused on like very little parts of the map. Normally you're playing a little mission in an area. I guess one of the advantages of DayZ is it actually makes you explore the whole landscape organically.
So is this poster something you guys put in the game?
Yeah, the guys, no, actually, you know, Bohemia put it in. They put in a few Easter eggs. I think there's a story behind this sign actually too.
So, I don't know, Dustin, if you want to just disable audio chat or something, so another Twitter question from @crisp707. It says,
Vaughn, I think you turned Vaughn down.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get slaughtered.
Oh wow. Just get out of here, Dustin.
Oh my God!
All found us. This is.
That guy's got an
Well, guys, you want to hang
bandit. That guy's a
dead.
bandit too.
My legs are broken.
Well,
time to change servers.
I guess we got paid back for our leg breaking combo-wise.
Yeah.
So @crisp707 says, would you consider adding a spectate mode for in the standalone for events such as the Hunger Games, which he put a Z on?
I'd really like to do that. Like, that Hunger Games thing is really awesome. Like, I just think that is the kind of stuff that we should be supporting. But I don't like manufacturing stuff for it. I think it's great how that people can come up with that stuff. Spectate mode does have, you know, it's not kind of the thing that we can easily put in for the mod because you know, we have to load them in as a player body and stuff like that, and there's a limited amount to it. So
I could see problems with that too, in the sense that if you were to start letting people spectate, they could do all kinds of cheating and tell people where other people were and stuff like that, and it could really pull people away from the survival aspect, the sense of feeling alone and the sense of like not knowing what's on around you.
But I think one thing I really do want to do is, so we talk with a couple of people running esport leagues at Gamescom, and so I think that you know, providing a couple of simple features that could be enabled on a server to enable that kind of Hunger Games type thing could be really awesome.
Yeah, actually, another Twitter user said, from Super Zelda 60 says, would you implement a way for people on their own private server to spawn stuff, kind of like creative mode in Minecraft? You know?
I think that's a really good idea. We talked about it at lunch. Maybe not something we release with initially, because, you know, to make sure that we really nail the hacking and that kind of stuff. We really just want to make sure that when we come out with the standalone, we don't have a problem with that. I think that's really important. So it might be something that takes a couple of weeks or months or something like that to get forward.
So the hacking issue's definitely been a big priority.
I think it's kind of priority number one. That
Yeah.
and the bugs, you know. We really have to nail that with the standalone. It doesn't matter how creative and cool it is, people only have a certain amount of patience for it, and
Sure,
the idea will start to get lost behind the problems.
Oh, sure. I mean, I think that there's a certain lenience that comes when something is a mod too, right? Like people understand that.
And it's a good idea, so people go, it's a good idea. Yeah, there's ridiculous graphical glitches and other problems, and sometimes we release updates that we shouldn't have. But most people are pretty good about it. So, but I think that quite reasonably, you know, that will start to wear thin pretty quick. So that initial focus is very refined.
Super Zelda 60, as we come upon the last few minutes, still got a couple of these to give away. You got yourself a postcard signed by Dean. Where does the name Rocket come from, by the way?
And Nathan, who's a guy, artist I worked with at She Interactive. When I first started my first game job, I was working as an associate producer. He said I looked like a Glenn, so he started calling me Glenn. But we had this other guy, Glenn Corby, he's a programmer. He came back from holiday, and I think he was a little bit perturbed that I was being called Glenn. So then they started calling me Rocket Two Guns. Because, I don't know, just randomly.
Yeah? Okay.
Because they were like, okay, Rocket Glenn. Yeah.
Okay.
So then it just became Rocket.
So what,
the name was born.
To go a little background on you too, you know, obviously you did, you know, the game development stuff before, but you've also done, you've done both the military and the Air Force, right, for New Zealand. How do you think that that's kind of like shaped your views, if at all, like on the way that you design games and think about game design?
Well, I became really interested in the emotional aspects of, you know, the emotional aspects of what players are faced. Because initially I really wanted to use, there's a good product based on the Armour engine called Virtual Battle Space, which they use to train soldiers. And a lot of militaries over the world use it. It's like an amazing tool for training soldiers. And so I was really interested in how to use that to provide emotional preparation for soldiers, because I did survival training, which I found really useful. You can actually check that toilet back there as well.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Sometimes I put items on the toilet. So
Right here.
you have to open the door.
What sort of emotional like stuff did you encounter when you did the survival training?
I don't think there's anything in there.
No, I saw the logo for it.
I think it was.
Let's check.
I think it was just detecting a can in front of it.
Oh.
Yeah. So I guess when I did my survival training, I found it really difficult because I was doing it when I was on exchange with the Singaporean Armed Forces. So I was the only white dude, you know, with like, you know, a whole bunch of Singaporeans, and there was a real big cultural impact for it. And but it was really awesome. Like, you know, you have to deal with all these, you know, you're starving, you're really hungry. You know, working with your buddies and that as well, and you know, there's a little bit of a distrust there sometimes. You know, who's going to pull their weight, who's not pulling their weight. And it's all these things that you can't train or teach someone in a lecture. And I think that actually you can do a lot of the tension preparation in a video game. And I think maybe that's what DayZ succeeds a little bit with, is it actually gets a whole game almost going on inside your head. Like you're really worried about your character, even though you know it doesn't really matter. So. Yeah, I think that definitely the military experience made me think about how games can be used to look at those tensions.
Here's actually a really good question from another Twitter user at Dark1272 says, what engine are you going to use for the DayZ standalone, Arma 3 or its own? And I think this is something that you know has been kind of confused by people online.
Yeah, so I guess the key thing is that we're starting with the Arma 2 engine. That's because we know it works and we want to start from a base of stuff that works. And what essentially is going to happen very quickly over the next few weeks is it actually becomes the DayZ engine. So it's not really long. In fact, already now it builds, you know, the DayZ standalone that we've got building. It builds in a completely, well, you know, fairly different way from our previous products and stuff like that. So. Yeah, it's kind of more accurate to say it's the DayZ engine that's been branched from Arma 2. Obviously there's inspiration and direct code taken from Arma 3 that we want, but I think it's really important that, you know, we've got the chance now to say, how do we want DayZ to work? How do we want the inventory system to work? All those kinds of things. It's really important that we decide how we want it to work, not how it's available.
Dark1272. postcard for you. We still have one of those to give away if you want to send in your last-minute questions to @IGN with the hashtag DayZ, coming up in the last 10 minutes or so of the stream. Another question from Echo1, Echo2 says, Rocket, are you planning on taking DayZ to any other locations or environments?
Ooh. I think, you know, the Linger Island has proved, like, you know, and everybody already kind of knew, you know, how great it would be to take DayZ to other environments, and I think that was a fantastic example of what really works with it. So, you know, I'm only really sort of, you know, pulling ideas out of my head, but I really want to see that as being a way to go forward, so that we'd have new BIS developed islands as well as community islands as well. And, you know, I'd thrown around the idea that maybe that could be the way that if we needed to get more development money, we could run a map. And there was a lot of negative feedback on that on Reddit. But I think what people need to realize is, like, you look at Tunerus, the map, that took a team of developers 2 years to make. So it's not like a, you know, your typical FPS map that is, in fact, I've seen great
corridor, a big
yeah,
tunnel.
like I've seen a great comparison of like the size of a BF3 map, and then you have a size of like an Armor map. You know, it's just like a fraction.
I think that's one of the things that maybe people don't realize unless they know someone in development or something or do development, is that asset creation like that can be extremely, like, one of the biggest sinks of a budget. So I imagine creating these maps has to be like one of the most time-consuming and financially taxing parts of making something like DayZ.
Yeah, and I think as well, game development naturally gravitates to what is generating its revenue. So no matter how much you try and avoid it, if we were selling hats, for example, then naturally we would focus a lot of attention. We wouldn't even mean to, but naturally you're going to end up focusing attention on
cosmetic stuff.
On the cosmetic stuff. But I would rather that we focus the attention on creating awesome terrains and things like that. I don't know, it's not an idea that I've really discussed with Bohemia and stuff like that, but I definitely think that, you know, I guess the short answer is yes. You know, we want more terrains, more islands, the ability to travel between the islands somehow. And there we go. It wouldn't be a live stream without graphical glitches.
Yeah, it's okay, I can look straight down.
You can try switching your VSync on and off. What I believe this is it's a floating point problem with the scene complexity. When the scene gets too complex, it loses the precision. VSync, if you change VSync to disable.
Oh boy.
Oh no, the guy that we broke the legs of has found us. Oh no.
That made it worse.
Wow. Yeah, that did
just turn the other direction. Just run the other direction, Dustin. Run the other direction and get away from the guy whose legs we broke. What is he doing?
I don't know. Oh god.
Actually, I saw a really great dubstep remix.
Oh no.
He broke
He broke our legs. Well, it was only a matter of at least he's bleeding out.
This is DayZ right there. Oh, that graphical corruption breaks my heart.
You know, these things happen. Probably one of the final Twitter questions we'll take is from @Harop, and he says, I know that seasons are going to appear, but how about environmental effects such as mist or fog or that sort of thing?
There's actually a really good fog implementation on Virtual Battle Space that I saw, like a really awesome fog. So we'd love to do things like that.
Wait, is he bleeding?
Yeah,
Yes.
he is.
Yeah, have fun with that.
I think you guys are going to die together.
No, I'm not bleeding anymore.
You've got
Oh,
more.
but there's more people coming.
No, it's cool.
No, I don't think it's cool, Dustin. I think these guys are out for blood.
I think any seasonal stuff we need to, like everything we implement at all, has an impact on performance. So that's where we've got to balance things. And I think that, you know, mist or like the whole weather system is being completely redone.
Yeah, we should just let these guys kill us anyways. Sorry, we were talking about mist and all that.
Yeah. So like the weather system is like the inventory system being completely redone.
Okay. So I'm going to actually give... Oh, man. So another question from Twitter user MultiGotcha says, would you ever consider adding any sort of boss zombies like the tank in Left 4 Dead or anything like that? Or is it...
I'm not really that big on that. I think that we are adding like a zombie life cycle that my brother, who's a virologist, is helping develop. And I think that will add some elements of stuff, but... Did you say original Bean Bandit?
I think so. We might have run into
That could be a really. He should make T-shirts.
We might have run into a gang.
I want that like original Bean Bandit.
They're just following us around too, so I get about 5 minutes of alone time.
Yeah, so that
Let's join
last
a really
question from
populated server.
Harap, you're gonna get our.
I did
our
answer
final.
that adequately, didn't I? I did answer that, I think.
About effects and fog and all that. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
You had another one after that, though.
oh
didn't you?
yeah, it was the boss zombies thing.
The boss. So not really. No, I think the boss in DayZ
no
is really the
boomers.
players.
Yeah.
No boomers. Oh, look, I like Left 4 Dead. You know, I
Yeah.
played
It's
a
a
lot when I
different.
was
It's a
in
totally
Singapore.
different game though.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah,
It's-
like I still play it. So yeah.
I mean, so how long can you see DayZ support, going on after you make the initial release? I mean, at some point, will DayZ ever be like, once it's standalone, will it be like DayZ is now out, or will it, because it's kind of like Minecraft, right? Minecraft stayed in the alpha, and then a beta for a very long time. But it was also because it was like with an online game where you're constantly updating it and tweaking and changing things. It's like, well, it's not like the same thing as a shipped standalone product, because when you ship it, you're like, it's done. You may make updates to it, but it's not. When you're doing a digital product, it's like, when is it done? When is it a game out in the wild and not just an ongoing beta?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at Bohemia's previous products, they were still supporting Arma 2 when DayZ was coming out, and it was like 3 years old. And in fact, they were still, providing support and things like that to Operation Flashpoint, which is like, a decade. So I think, as long as it makes sense, DayZ would continue to be supported. I think that, I can only really speak to my involvement. I think that there will be a point at which not only am I completely sick of it, but also I become counterproductive to the process. So I think I have to try and know when that point is.
I'm curious why you think you would become counterproductive to the process.
Well, it's like you see lots of cool ideas come out of different games. Like I play even like The Sims 3 and stuff like that. I really like it. And so I know that, you have new teams that come in and they breathe in new life. And I think that if DayZ does stick as a product, then I think eventually there will be a time to bring in fresh ideas and new ideas. Like there's only so much creative input that you can put in before I think that you become, they call it founder's syndrome. You're the person who comes up with the idea and you create like a cool idea, but you're not necessarily the person to always take it forward.
Right, and I guess I could see that it's like you said too, right? At some point for you, you're going to want to do something else creatively. Like, DayZ is fun and it's awesome, but if
I live and breathe it. It's
5 years from now, are you going to be like, DayZ, God, I'm so tired of DayZ all the time.
It's a 20-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week job at the moment. So, it's like a lot of people say to me, oh, I really want to play like Arma 2 or that. And, it's not what I play in my spare time at the moment.
Well, what do you spare in your playing?
Actually, like in the weekend, I played Minecraft. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
I was going to publish the server details. I might actually try and set up a big server and see if, because I made like a little new map and stuff for Minecraft that was like ice survival. I think I was telling you about before.
There's actually a DayZ Minecraft
there is.
mod.
Yeah.
I saw that.
We
It was
tried out
pretty
one
cool.
of them.
Yeah.
There's a server one also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's 2. We've kind of hit the end of our time here. Thank you very much, Dean, for joining us. Thank you, everyone who sent us in your awesome questions.
Yeah, they were really good questions.
That ended up getting some really good discussions. Even thank you to all the people who went out of your way to try and kill us and crash a helicopter
Emergent
into us.
gameplay right there.
Emergent gameplay. So thank you, and for all things DayZ, remember to keep it locked to IGN.